Let's now bring in Gunnery Sergeant Jessie Jane Duff from the U.S. Marine Corps. She's now retired and a senior fellow with the London Centre for Policy Research. Jessie, good to have you with us. And Jessie, as we know, Turkey and the U.S. are in fact NATO allies, but they're backing rival sides here in Syria. If Turkey does make good on this threat and takes action against the U.S.-backed Kurds in northeastern Syria, how do you see the U.S. responding?
Oh, this is going to be extremely stressful for the United States because YPG is an ally to the United States. The Kurdish group is considered a terrorist organization by Turkey, but obviously has been working very closely with the U.S. in its fight against ISIS. This is critical because we have united with the YPG group to defeat ISIS, and we need those people on the ground that are capable of understanding the terrain, the language, the way that the various atmosphere is within within Syria. But Turkey itself has always felt threatened by YPG. What we have to remember, too, is that the Syrians have been flowing into Turkey at rapid rates when they've been fleeing some of this conflict. So Turkey does have an invested interest in protecting their own borders. But if they intervene and come over the border and start with these attacks against the very allies that we have, this is going to cause a great stress and tension with U.S. forces, Washington, D.C., and Erdogan.
Well, how seriously should we take Erdogan here? Because it could just be that he's playing up to a domestic audience, saber-rattling, trying to stir up some nationalist support ahead of municipal elections that are taking place in March. As we know, the economy has really suffered under him, and his party could lose some municipalities. Could this just be talk for a domestic audience?
Well, let's just hope it is saber-rattling. I mean, we've often seen this also with Putin claiming to have some very glamorous efforts with missile launching, that he could attack everybody throughout the world. We've seen it with North Korea. We've seen a lot of world leaders claim to fame be their capability of stirring up their own population and their own base. Meanwhile, they're not going to take those drastic measures that we fear most. But I would say that Washington has to take this very seriously, considering we are NATO allies, considering that we don't need to have the detriment of YPG in Syria in our fight against ISIS. Too many American lives have already been lost in the Middle East. And if we have an ally in there that's willing to help us fight terrorism, this is critical for our success in the long run. So I think that we can negotiate with Erdogan. There's a lot of means and measures we can take that can help maybe their economy. We can stimulate things on other levels that can ensure that they have safety. And for them to enter into Syria and to get involved in this, what advantage will they actually have with this? As long as YPG isn't going into Turkey and creating havoc for them, I would hope that we make it very clear, stay out of it.
Let's focus on another area of Syria, and that is Idlib, the rebel-held province. There was an imminent offensive by the Syrian army backed by the Russians. That has been held off for now. But diplomacy isn't really yielding many results. The 11th round of the Astana meetings coming up with nothing. And the truce in Idlib is set to expire soon. How do you see that playing out?
The Russians have no interest of withdrawing out of Syria. We know this. They have a naval base that's been in place for pretty much, probably, I believe, roughly 20 years. We know that the Russians have an invested interest in seeing that that the leader of all of Syria is kept in place. So I am very concerned that Idlib is going to be another area of attack. It has been demolished before. I would hope that many of those civilians have since left that have been able to escape during this ceasefires so that they can find tranquility. But we are realizing that there is a heavy location with ISIS presence, and they're going to go in there and they're going to probably bomb it again. It's been very difficult for us to manage this because we have our own U.S. forces that we have to keep in our mind to ensure that we're not putting them at risk at the same time. This internal civil war within Syria and our capabilities of trying to stop ISIS have been overlapping for quite a number of years now, and it didn't get resolved under President Obama. Let's hope it does with President Trump.
Let's hope so. Gunnery Sergeant Jessie Jane Duff, thank you for your time as always.